did want to say I came into the group presentation feeling quite comfortable and confident, but I must say that all the speakers that precluded me have done an excellent job, and I can see I got to put a little bit more work than what I anticipated to keep you engaged. So thanks for having us. And as it states on the slide here, I'm going to be talking about a very specific course that I was teaching when the COVID crisis hit the world. And that course was called An Introduction to Sustainability, or SUS 140 here at Central. So please go to the next slide. Thank you. So as was stated by Linda and others, I was just one part of the entire group who is presenting to you today. My university is in Connecticut, highlighted in the lower right corner of your screen, Central Connecticut State University. And as the name implies, we're located very centrally within the state of Connecticut. We're one of the flagship universities, certainly the flagship of the CCSU system. UConn is a separate institution, and they're also a flagship of that. And you'll be hearing from Phoebe from UConn next. So we're a fairly large state university, if you will. We have approximately 8,600 students, and we have both graduate and undergraduate degrees that we offer, and among other things, a bunch of certificates. For the geography department, for example, we have a certificate in GIS for the professional that's looking to get a little bit ahead. We hired our very first ever in the history of the entire institution female president, and she's now been with the university for about 3 years almost, and she has really driven an emphasis on social and economic justice on our campus. And one of the challenges that she's presented with us is to accept our standing. We're in New Britain, Connecticut, and it's a very largely non-white community. So our campus is now renewed and focusing on those of need. And what's perhaps maybe the most unique characteristic of our campus, unlike UConn, at CCSU, when students graduate, 85% or more of them stay in the state. Of the 15% that don't stay in Connecticut, they tend to stay at least in New England. So in any case, next slide, please. Yes, so as I mentioned, the course that I was teaching at the time of the pandemic was SUS 140, Introduction to Sustainability, and it's within our geography department, for which I'm the chair, and I run the sustainability program for the campus, academically, not the hands-on, not the equivalent to what Susie from Southern does. But I'm purely faculty on a number of boards and so forth, but we teach about sustainability topics within our geography department. So this course, at the time of the pandemic hitting, I had 24 students enrolled. And prior to, and there's actually, I don't know why, but I don't see the entire slide. There should be more information beneath there. The major assignments that were with the class included most of what you see here. I had the students, I was expecting students to complete 5 critical thinking essays. So these essays require them to answer a question that requires a little bit more research. Sometimes they would need to go physically out into their community and collect information to answer the question. Sometimes they would need to do a purely academic research through peer-reviewed articles and internet and books and and so forth. And then lastly, I would have them do a group poster. So all these 3 things, and the group posters typically they had to be about a sustainability related challenge to society. So pretty broad canvas for them to use for their poster. So I managed to carry off these 3 assignments even post-COVID. So next slide, please. Okay, so in the Introduction to Sustainability course, in addition to those 3 goals, the goal for me as the professor was that if my students would leave this course at the end of the semester and they would have a full understanding, a confident grasp of the concepts and the tenets of sustainability. That being said, if they were to engage in a conversation or enter another course after this one, they would have a clear understanding of what sustainability is, at least an understanding of the 3 pillars: environmental, social, and economic. So the students will typically, in a normal semester, they would learn about the things that not only they could do, but corporations could do, governments could do, individuals could do, and local communities could do to engage, promote, and adopt concepts of sustainability within their everyday operations. Typically, in a normal semester, students would learn how the different systems within those 3 pillars of sustainability interact with each other. And by that, what I mean is they would have a clear understanding that all the different environmental systems, right, the Earth systems and processes like the water cycle, interact with other Earth systems, say like the carbon cycle. But beyond that, they would leave and have a firm grasp that these 3 pillars of subsystems interact with the other 2. So in other words, if you change something in the water cycle, you're going to impact some sort of a social system. And you're going to impact some of the subsystems within the economic pillar as well. So they're going to know that in order for sustainability to be truly realized, all those subsystems within each pillar operate harmoniously, but also that all 3 systems and all of their subsystems are also operating together harmoniously. And then lastly, in order to get to there, they would obviously need to have a grasp, an understanding of what these challenges are that humans are introducing into the ability of these 3 systems to operate in a state of somewhat equilibrium with each other. And then if the operations, if the human inputs within these 3 systems, these 3 pillars are out of balance, the students need to understand, and hopefully they would, how to go about grasping what is out of balance in order to make adjustments. So that is the goal of the class. So next slide, please. So to get there, I typically would have these students use processes, use skill sets that are very applied. So in a typical semester, I would take these Introduction to Sustainability students, similar to like Jesse had explained, and I might take them out and show them a little garden or a farm and teach them a little bit about how to do core sampling for soils, or how to identify plants, and how to identify the ranges of good to bad, or the geographical ranges of the soils and the plants themselves, for example. So I teach them about things that they can do, methods they can employ, and at the bigger scale, things they could demand of their university, demand of their community, demand of their government and the corporations, so that they can move towards having policies and procedures that support sustainability and coexistence of humans within all of the systems of those three pillars: social, economic, and environmental. So by the end of the semester, these students will have developed a certain set of skills that enable them to do research, to look at data and analyze it, to interpret the findings, to understand and be open to seeing what the data is saying to them, and then present their findings, show what they learned, and hopefully introduce suggestions that would create improved sustainable outcomes to not just the environment, but also the social systems and the economic systems of society. So to get there, I worked hard on developing curriculum that's going to help them learn how to not only assess, analyze, and understand, but then present what they found out. So my goal was to have them understand how and give them a little experience in presenting information verbally, presenting sustainability concepts and ideas visually and digitally, and also how to create a poster like many of us need to do at our conferences when we give presentations. So next slide, please. So the objectives of the course overall are for the students to develop a thorough understanding of the concepts of sustainability, have an empirical grasp of systems thinking so that they can analyze and assess the challenges towards sustainability. And three, have a critical understanding on how people and how our modern civilization, businesses and governments can shift their programs and their policies and their applied systems to be more sustainable. Next slide, please. So that's the background. That was the original goal when we went into the semester. But the fact of the matter is, things changed. So with these critical thinking essays, as I explained, they were given a question. It was in regards to a challenge to social sustainability, economic sustainability, or environmental sustainability, and they needed to research it, and they needed to identify possible solutions. I also expected students to do what I called a community engagement event or activity. So that usually in a typical semester would involve the student going physically to a meeting. So obviously they can't do that anymore. And then I had expected them to do group projects. So I had expected originally that they were going to work in student groups, reach out to community organizations or beyond the community, it could be national or international, and host an event during Earth Week on campus with that NGO or governmental agency or business. They would host an event on campus. Secondly, they were going to create and present a poster about an environmental sustainability challenge. And they would present this poster at the annual Global Environmental Sustainability Symposium that we host at Central Connecticut State University every year. Oh, and by the way, I did want to make note, we are hosting, hopefully, the 14th annual Environmental Sustainability Conference Symposium at CCSU this coming April 20th online. And if you want information, you can ask for that. So next slide, please. Okay, for some reason, the slides are cutting off like the last line or two at the bottom of each slide. I don't know if that can be adjusted or not. So after COVID hit, we got the news as a campus very dramatically. So on March 11th, we had our campus-wide emergency system broadcasting mechanisms completely go off. We heard a huge siren, and all the sirens were going off, and all the computers shut down, and a verbal and a written notice showed up to us all, students and faculty and staff. And it didn't say what was going on. It just said, everybody must leave campus now. Go home. So as you can imagine, a lot of us were like, okay, pack it up, and we headed home. We weren't quite sure what was going on. Of course, we found out it was COVID, so the mystery was solved. And I mean, everything shut down. We weren't permitted, unlike Jesse, we weren't even permitted to come on campus, not even the outdoors of campus. So this hit me hard with my class, because I would usually meet with my students, not only in person in the classroom, or not only at meetings and physical meetings with other organizations and groups or guest speakers, but I too would take my students out, and we would work on applied methods of assessment, like soil sampling or plant identification, or some water quality tools that they could use to measure the quality of water. That all got shut down. Even the residence halls students were booted off. Just go home. So for my SUS 140 course, all of my course materials, all of my activities, all my lectures, everything, all the in-classroom activities, all the other components that I had planned for the semester and were well underway, had to go completely online. Nothing in person in any way, shape, or form. So that hit me kind of hard. I had to figure out how to convert my curriculum, my pedagogy goals, to completely online. And I kind of was expecting COVID to get to that point, so I had begun, thankfully, to pre-think it a little bit. What might I do if I had to do this? But my choices were very limited. I had very little opportunity that I felt comfortable all my students would have the ability to do. So one of the characteristics, as I mentioned when I was going over the background of CCSU, is we do have a fair number of students that very well may not even have an iPhone, let alone a computer. So I kept that in mind, and I reached out to my students, and I engaged them via email and got some quick feedback from them on what approach might be best for me to take. But my choices were very limited, right? I needed to decide, am I going to have this class continue on specific days at specific times as if it was in a classroom or not? In other words, I could give them information online. We use Blackboard Learn. I could put slideshows on there. I could put articles. I could have maybe videos and teach it asynchronous or not live. So for me, the best option for my SUS 140 course was to conduct the remainder of the semester online and synchronous. So online at a specific day, in fact, the exact same days, the exact same times as which the class was meeting. And after discussing options with my students for only maybe a few days, I made the decision that that's what we would do. We would keep our day of the class, the time of the class the same, and we would meet together virtually. So with the thought in the back of my mind that some of my students don't have the technological ability to do a bunch of different technical options, I decided, because the students indicated that for them, the best thing to do would be for us to meet during class time in a Facebook group. So thank God it happened last semester, because as of this semester, I'm no longer on Facebook. I quit Facebook. It was just, I don't know, wasn't getting much from it. So that's what we did. We met every day, class day, on Facebook group. I presented slides as if I was doing a regular lecture. We had discussions with students, just like kind of like we would in the course, and we moved on. Next slide, please.
And Chaz, we're going to have to wrap up.
Oh, am I past my time? Well, we're about there.
But okay, good.
Yeah. So what we got, the impacts were to the community service learning assignments. They had to be eliminated. Expectations changed from being in person to online. The Earth Week events completely eliminated. Group posters, we kept that assignment, but we altered it. Next slide. So the lectures, the negatives for me were the lectures unfolded a lot slower, which meant they learned a lot less. The course was completed, they received their grades, but the content and the learning was lost for the students in many ways. And this course clearly is not ideal for online. But I did take from it that I perhaps could do a hybrid course, a little bit online and mostly in person. Next slide. I think that should about wrap it up. Next slide. Yeah, so that's it.